Hello, everyone. My name is Ben, and as usual, I'm the host of today's podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Kieran Warwick, the co-founder of Illuvium. Welcome to the show, Kieran.
Hey Ben, how you doing?
Yeah, great to have you. So before we begin, I always like to start off with asking our guests about themselves, how they first got into crypto, and, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I guess you'd call me like a serial entrepreneur. I've been doing startups pretty much all my life. I tend to gravitate towards the business end, and I really enjoy marketing and stuff like that. So yeah, a startup guy, I guess is what you'd say. I got into crypto back in 2016. I got absolutely wrecked by ETH, and it left a very sour taste in my mouth. And so I decided I would leave. I then developed a food tech startup. COVID really, really hurt that in the end. And so I ended up going back into crypto, and then I found crypto gaming, and yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, so you obviously already kind of gave it away. You mentioned gamings, and so what exactly is Illuvium?
So it's the world's first AAA IBG, which is an interoperable blockchain game. So a lot of people think Illuvium is just one game, but it's actually three games right now in the universe that we're creating that are all interoperable and all underpinned by a single token, ILV. And so there's a you've got your city builder game where you go and collect your resources. Those resources are then used in the main game for collecting and capturing these monsters that we call alluvials. And then you take those monsters and you go into another game called Illuvium Arena, and that's where you battle other people and you can earn yield and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a gamer myself, so I get all the genres that you're talking about. So I'd just like to ask, why is there a specific reason for picking these genres? So, you mentioned city building. I guess collection is pretty common, but entering the auto battler genre, that's quite unique. For those of you out there who are not familiar with auto battlers, the most popular one is Dota Auto Chess and Underlords, as well as Teamfight Tactics from League of Legends.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So the reason is Illuvium was co-founded by three brothers,
Mhm.
and I'm one of them. Aaron's another, and Grant is another. And we all wanted to have sort of our own games that we thought were fun. And
Mhm.
Illuvium Zero didn't actually exist back when we first wrote the white paper. And so when we looked at it, Aaron wasn't agreeing with us building like a Pokemon type collection game.
Yep.
He didn't, he wasn't in that era. He's a little bit older than us. And he's been addicted to team fight tactics for probably 7, 8 years now. And
Yep.
so he said, I refuse to join unless you do this. And then we said, well, we don't want to do that. We want to do the Pokemon game. And we sort of fought for a couple of days or whatever. And then eventually he just said, look, I'm the game designer. I'm going to design a game that includes both genres mashed together, and then everyone will be happy. And yeah, we all are.
As a fan of all genres, I am happy to hear that. So yeah. And I guess the biggest question for outsiders is, most games focus on one area, but obviously you mentioned that your team is mashing three games together. And if I were to summarize, it's kind of like collecting, battling, exploring, even management resource, right? That's resource management. How do you balance the different gaming aspects, right? On top of your tokenomics, while ensuring that it still remains fun.
Yeah, so it's a difficult task. I'm not going to lie. And it's not something that I need to solve myself personally. It's more what Aaron takes care of, and essentially at the heart of all of our games is fun, right? Like you can always
Yeah.
have a sustainable economy if people are willing to pay for the value of fun, right? Things like skins in games, emotes in games. Like if they want to, if they see value in a cosmetic or something like that, then you're always going to have value flowing in without it being extracted out, right? And that's how you keep a sustainable economy. But in order to do that, you need to have, it needs to be fun, right? Like no one
Yeah.
is buying skins and crazy cosmetics and PFPs in games that they're not having fun, because why would you, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't do that, right? You're here as an investor. And I think that is the issue with the space at the moment, is that people aren't here to have fun. They're here to extract money out of these economies, and that is not sustainable in the long term.
Do you consider Illuvium, you kind of mentioned it earlier, right? You said Illuvium is a triple A game. And, as a gamer myself, I'm usually not very certain about where does the label triple A come from. So why do you consider yourself a triple A game? And, what does the definition actually entail?
So we are like scraping the bottom of the barrel of being able to call ourselves a AAA game, right? Like
Okay.
essentially it's the amount of funding that you have. We do tick that box. We've had about 55 million in funding, so you need about 50 million plus in order to hit that box. But again, that's low. There's some games where there's 400 500 million dollars of funding that have been put into it, but I'd say that the bottom level there is about 50. Where we're under is definitely in the team size. So we've only got we had about 210 full-time devs and artists and operations and marketing people working on the business full-time, but that's now been restructured down to about 170. My definition is probably around the 300 plus mark, right? Like it's very, very difficult to do that. Now, where we sort of have an advantage over traditional mainstream studios is, we built this very, very quickly. We've only existed for 18 months. And so we haven't had a whole bunch of bloat across different hires and departments. And what we've been able to do is just only hire experts. So we don't have any juniors in the team. It's all senior level plus stuff, and ideally leads and head of departments. And what we get out of that is 10-15 years experience of them building AAA games. And that's why you see the quality that we're able to produce. So while our team is a little bit under what that AAA threshold technically is, we make up for it in our ability. And then the last factor is the graphics, right? Like what quality graphics are you producing? And as you can see, we've gone beyond belief. Grant, the brother who had the CGI background and who's one of the best modelers in the world, he was relentless with us, just saying, we're going AAA in terms of the graphics. It needs to be insane. People need to just look at it and go, holy God, this is the modern day Pokemon.
Awesome. And, we kind of talked a little bit about games, but, there is this larger question at hand, right? Why build this on the blockchain? And for Illuvium, they're building on ETH. Why not go the traditional route?
So we wanted to be able to have an interoperable universe, and we wanted users to have real world ownership of their assets. And so that's what the blockchain and NFTs enables. And, being able to take an asset from the overworld, and then in the future, if we build out a cartoon racer game, being able to take your alluvial and it ports into a Mario Kart style game, you don't need to spend the $99 to buy the new game. You literally just have that asset. That's what the blockchain really enables us to do.
You kind of described the development process earlier, but does that also change because you are a building on the blockchain? Because the processes you described kind of sounds like a traditional gaming studio. Are there any unique issues or uh, matters that you need to manage differently when you're considering a blockchain game?
So look, there needs to be the integration of the blockchain into the
Mhm.
game, but a lot of that is not actually handled by our blockchain engineers. That's handled by our backend engineers, right? Now, it's all about connecting up APIs, making sure that transactions are seamless. And to be honest, it's not too dissimilar to like, it's not the first real world economy that's ever been created in a game.
Yeah.
So as much as I'd love to say that there's some super complex way, like you need to understand the models of DeFi. Like we have decentralized governance, we have staking, but these are all separate applications to what the game is, basically.
Yeah.
And so in terms of that traditional game development, it's very standardized.
You talked a little bit earlier about on the state of GameFi or play to earn. You know, you're talking about how the industry has not really been focused on fun and more on extracting value out of the ecosystem. Uh, would you say that this is the overall vibe of the industry, right? Is there anything else to it? Or do you feel like most actors in the space today is all about value extraction?
So you started this off and you said that you're a gamer.
Yeah,
Is there a single game that you would play in Web3 right now over a Web2 game?
no, not.
There's your answer, right? No, I'm a gamer too. I'm sorry, I'm not here to. While I think it's amazing and fantastic that people in third world countries can have the ability to extract this money out of these economies and earn, 10, 15, $20 a day, that's not what true gamers want. They get their value out of the fun, and there isn't a single first person shooter. There's no collectible game. There's no tower defense game. There's no dungeon crawlers. There's literally no MOBAs, no MMORPGs that are better than any Web 2 game. And so, of course, I think the state, when people say, oh, NFTs and NFT gaming get such a bad rap, it's like, of course it does. Look at it. The state of it is very infant. It needs to mature, and it will. There are many, many, many games that are building, but right now, as gamers, there's no chance I play a single game.
I completely agree. It just feels really, I feel very validated when I hear you say that because it's kind of expressing how I feel about the whole space in general. So, yeah, great to hear that. And we kind of talk about this, but what about the other aspects, right? So some people call themselves games, but when really they're actually using gamification methods to change up the way you interact with the protocol. So what are your thoughts on that? For example, DeFi Kingdoms considers themselves a game, but if you look at the mechanics, it's kind of like a DEX, right? It's just a gamified DEX. It's DeFi
I mean, what
exercise.
that look, game has a very loose meaning, right? Like I think that staking is a game. It's just a financial game, right? And
Yeah.
and a very large part of what Illuvium Zero is going to be is about that financial game. It's about gamifying staking. It's about creating your own resources that you can go and sell to other people that are gamers. And so that effectively is gamified staking in a way. Do I think that you can solely rely on that type of game in your ecosystem? Absolutely not, right? Like
Mm.
it's just it is a gamified staking model, right? It's a DEX that has tried to get more people to do it in a fun way. That's not a new method
Yeah.
of getting users, but do I think that that's sustainable? Probably not.
Mhm.
People want to play fun games.
And what do you think about the public's reception towards games? Like you kind of mentioned it earlier as well that you know the industry is very infant. It's in an infant stage, and people have kind of a bad impression of NFT and blockchain games in general. Do gamers actually care about whether it's on the blockchain or not?
They don't yet, because every single example that they've had is a game that they could have been playing 15, 20 years ago. So they look at it and they think, why is all this money pouring into it? Why can't I get my AAA team over here that has 300 people that have proven that they can build 4 or 5 games that I love in a franchise? Why, when they go out to try and raise money to create a new game on top of that initial IP, why are they not getting funded? And yet you've got this 2D TCG over here that's getting $300 million in funding, and I wouldn't play that game if you put a gun to my head, right? Like it's like this is how gamers think. And so I agree. I 100% agree. And that's what part of the reason why I get so motivated to be a part of building Illuvium is it's going to change the perception that NFT games are bad and they aren't fun to play and they're not immersive. They've got terrible graphics. That is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think for a large part, that's why our team is doing what they're doing, because we want to prove to the world that the fun and immersive and addictive and competitiveness that you get out of gaming can exist while being underpinned by the blockchain, which gives it even more advantages, where you have verifiable ownership, the ability to sell your assets, the ability to take an asset in from one game and bring it into another game inside that ecosystem. Like, imagine if you told someone who's playing, who's a super, a Mario fan, right? Like, that's a very, very big IP, but you need to purchase Mario Party, you need to purchase Mario Kart, you need to purchase Super Smash Brothers. Imagine if I told you one of those games, you can take your character and go and play any of them inside the universe, any of those games. Do you think gamers would then go back to the previous model of, no, I need to go buy a $99 game 10 times if I want to keep on playing that same IP? Not a chance at all that they're going to do that. It's just that we don't have a Mario quality game in Web3 yet. We don't have a Pokemon quality game in Web3 yet, but it is coming, and we are very, very close now.
Which brings me to my next question. Obviously, Illuvium will want to be the benchmark. So when Illuvium launches, hopefully the tides turn. But where do you think the industry is headed? You know, when do you see this change really happening?
So if we take GTA, for example, they take every time a new GTA comes out, you're talking a 5 to 7 year development cycle. Games of this quality take a long, long, long time to build. We only started seeing AAA developers, AAA teams start developing 2 years ago. And we were pretty much the first. Then there was a bunch that started around us, maybe a couple of months after. Once those games start launching stuff, and even if they launch a few things early, right, and just demonstrate, like we've done with our betas and whatever, once they go open, yes, they're going to be way, way more polished in 4 or 5 years, but right now they need to be shown that, hey, this is coming. But we're still 4, 5, 6 years away from seeing a bunch of different genres that are competing with mainstream.
And just kind of round off the session, right? Brings me back to Illuvium. What are Illuvium's plans in the short term? You know, what can we expect in this quarter specifically, and I guess also for the next year or so?
Yeah, so by the end of the year, we'll have Illuvium Zero's alpha out, Illuvium Overworld's beta out, and we will have a private beta 3, which is a PvP version of Teamfight Tactics. And so at that point, you'll be able to see that the overworld has harvesting, it has forging, it has collecting, it literally has everything, but it will still be in a private beta. So you need to register on our website to try and get into that. And yeah. So, and by the way, are you in the beta?
Yes, I
Awesome,
am.
awesome, cool.
Yeah. Before we close up the session, I always like to ask, is there anything that I should have asked but did not that you kind of want to address? Or is anything else you would like to share with our audience here at CoinGecko?
Just really appreciate the support that CoinGecko has given us throughout the last 18 months to 2 years. Bobby, your founder, has been amazing to us. He's a good friend of mine, and everyone at your team has just been super supportive. Your customers, same thing. They're always really, really supportive of Illuvium. So yeah, just want to say a massive thank you to you guys.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for those kind words. And I guess that's kind of wrapping up the session today. Thank you so much for your time, Kieran.
No worries. Thanks, Ben.